Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next installment of JKL Media Reviews. And we're continuing our journey with The Haunting of Hill House, and we're up to episodes 7, Eulogy, and 8, Witness Marks. And more secrets are being revealed, more backstory is being provided about the adults in the story as opposed to the children. So, with that in mind, Jesse, what are your overall, and I put it in quotes, quick thoughts of episode 7 and 8?
Are
We're
you
not very
looking
good at that. I'm sorry.
are you looking at Karen when you say that statement?
Oh, me? Oh, no, I'm not looking at
No.
anybody.
Yeah, I will say we talked just a few minutes before we hit record. I will never doubt y'all again
Oh,
that
awesome.
when recommending a series, and I am really sad that it's Mother's Day because I want to go after this and immediately watch the next two episodes. I loved both episodes. I loved the cliffhanger endings, and I have a lot of thoughts to share with you guys.
All righty.
Awesome.
Awesome. Karen, he asks
Yeah.
nervously.
Okay, come on. I freely admit that I talk too much. Yeah, like you said just before we went on, Timothy Hutton is amazing in this series, and these two episodes prove that. I love the pacing and that we're getting like just enough information in each episode to make us want to watch the next episode right away. So apologies for that, Jesse, but yeah, I can't speak more highly of this show.
Awesome. And a little behind the scenes reveal. It's actually been 2 weeks for Jesse because he was off on vacation last weekend. So he's been really waiting for 2 weeks to watch the last two episodes, which must be torture for you.
It is, and I thought you were very sweet. I sent a message, please, can I watch the next two? And you guys said, sure. And then I
If
went,
you
no,
want
no,
to,
yeah,
but yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
In solidarity, I did not watch the last two either.
Oh, nice.
Okay, there you go. And neither have I. So horror movies have a lot of tropes that they like to lean on, and one trope in particular is the jump scare. So far, Hill House has avoided using such a device, but however, in this two episodes, it did. So Jesse, did the jump scare make you jump?
Yes, it did both times. The one in the car,
Yes.
both times surprised me because it had been a week since I'd seen the first time and the second time.
Yeah.
And the other thought is, and I realize we talked about this last time, is that we're watching this movie, so it isn't real life for us. So
Right.
therefore, we're going, why won't we just admit that something supernatural is going on? But the reality is, if you were in real life, you would know this is my imagination. I'm going insane. I have a history of mental illness. But when a shrieking banshee comes between you and your sister in a car, okay, maybe something supernatural is going on. Maybe you should just accept that at that point.
Hard to
Yeah.
deny at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I freely admit that it totally took me by surprise because
Oh,
the show hadn't been using that device at all. So I wasn't expecting it.
oh, it was perfect.
It was perfectly done and used with judicious restraints throughout the series. Yeah, that was really cool. So that's actually in episode 8. But let's circle back to episode 7, Eulogy. And let's talk about you. And not you as in you, but as you and as Timothy Hutton and Henry Thomas. Well, Jesse, what are your thoughts on him?
I'm a little upset with him,
Uh-oh.
and I think the show did a good job of explaining his motivation. He said, I thought if I didn't tell you kids what was going on, I could protect you. But another trope is a lot of this would have been when a series, especially a romantic, and you guys know how much I love rom-coms. If you just would share everything to the other person, a lot of the plot line would be gone away. And I think really good movies figure out a way for characters to share each other's what's going on, but still leave a conflict between them. I wonder how much things would have changed if the dad had been more upfront with them and giving his thoughts. Now, the oldest would have still thought he was crazy, and maybe they wouldn't have believed him. But since he had an estranged relationship from the kids anyway, that's my own. I understand why he did it, and I'm really glad they gave a reason, but I think it was a dumb reason.
Protecting others at the risk of alienating them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have to say that this is a trope that they use a lot in superhero stories where
And romances.
I can't, in romances, but in particular, the hero can't tell his family and friends or else they'll be put in danger.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that this is somewhat adjacent to that, not so much the romance part of it, but like I'm protecting them from danger by keeping this information from them. And I don't think, Jesse, we've seen yet the extent of what he was protecting them from.
Okay.
I'm asking you, is that correct?
No, and I trust the series enough that there was, but yes, and I'm getting the two episodes confused, but
don't worry about it.
One of the things, the law officer, the two different things with him, that when they find the body and he's all jovial, and now then afterwards the whole you're not arrested, you can leave anytime you want, which but I don't recommend you doing it. So yeah, I think we'll find out. And it does sound crazy that the house wants to kill them.
Right.
I mean, that when you say that, okay, Dad, drinking a little too much, maybe. And I am fascinated why the house hates them so much. Yeah.
Interesting. I don't want to take issue with what you just said about you, Jesse, but it will just more of a food for thought thing. Part of the problem is, like a lot with families, it's hard to talk about real things, factually real things that we all share the same experience. Here, this character is carrying this supernatural aspect around as well, and at the risk of not wanting to seem crazy, there might be just some selfish self-protection mechanism going for him that he doesn't want to make want to reveal to the kids that there was this, like, ghosts are real, but at the same time, so he's got these two conflicting things. One, he doesn't want to sound crazy, and two, he doesn't want to open up this whole world of the supernatural to the kids as well, because he's hoping that they were young enough that they weren't influenced by it. And as we've seen, obviously those wishes are totally out the window. So that's just an alternate or a food for thought that I think I want to leave with you. So there's two timelines for you, the present and the past. Is there anything in the present that you want to talk about further, Jesse? Or
so I'm going to jump to the second episode.
Okay.
Since you're specifically asking. When he realizes that his youngest son is going to go burn down the house, right? And like, I'm driving, and all of a sudden he is more focused than he's been up until this thing. Like, we'd seen him that's a minded professor, and then all of a sudden he is spot on.
Yeah.
And then having the discussion, you saw a ghost. No. And then he goes about the grandfather clock, right? And we just walked by that. And I thought of Karen going, you may have not noticed that they're seeing ghosts, Jesse, because it's a little more subtle. And then when he talks about the treehouse, and I go back to one of the first couple episodes where they said, Dad never thinks to look for you here, even though this is where you're always at. You're like, wow. And he goes, we were only going to be there 2 months. When would I have had time or even the desire to make? I'm like, holy crap. And all of a sudden, to echo your pot, right? He's trying to protect the kids. And all of a sudden he becomes he changes gears to protective father. instead of, oh, I'm feeling guilty and I love Timothy Hutton. I've loved him since Ordinary People.
Yep.
And I just thought that was just seeing him switch like that was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. He's carrying such a burden, and Timothy Hutton really portrays that well.
He does.
Yeah, I'm glad that we did get that overt nod to the ghosts in the background. And I think that's part of why people went back to watch for ghosts in other places. And I think it's cool. You should, when we're done, maybe look up an article on that. It's one of the things that occurs to me. It's when you watch a movie like Sixth Sense, for example, where you get that big twist at the end that, spoiler alert, he was dead the whole time. You could, huh?
You just had to do it.
I did. Sorry.
Well, how old is the movie, right?
Yeah.
Now, is it
20,
yeah.
20 years old?
The people that weren't around 20 years ago.
True.
Still.
Good point.
Come on. It's all over the place.
I am your father.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's even older. So,
older.
Yeah. Anyway, 1980 for that one. 77 was the first one.
Yes,
1980
right.
was the second one.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
My bad.
My first date was for this first one.
Oh.
Anyway. Okay, so when you watch a movie like The Sixth Sense, you see that twist come at the end, and I'm guessing 99.9% of people didn't figure it out, right? But if you go back and look at it, there's hints everywhere. Like when he's at the recital watching the kids, there's a guy behind him with a camera filming the recital, and it's aimed right at the back of Bruce Willis's head. So he can't see Bruce Willis because the camera is going like right through his face. And there's things like that all through the movie. No one actually talks directly to him. And
the restaurant, when he's trying to share.
Right, exactly.
And the first time you watch it, you go, wow, she's really angry at him.
She's cold, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the fact that he tries to pick up the check, but she brings it to her. The fact that there's red in every scene with a dead person. There's all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but there's lots of hints in this. And that's one of the things, the treehouse, it never occurred to me that why would there be a treehouse here at a house that they're rehabbing?
Yeah.
To turn around, to turn over. But then when you look back at it, you're like, why didn't I see that? Why would there be a treehouse there? Why on earth would there be a treehouse there? And he's really good at planting those things that you're so used to seeing loose threads like that in other media that you do your hand wave at because the story doesn't tie everything in. But in this case, he ties every little thing into the story. And that's one of the things, like when Lou and I'm sure went on to watch the next couple of series from him, we were like, okay, everything means something. So I'm going to watch this thinking that, and it still gets past me.
Yeah.
So I loved that this was the first time I watched anything by him. And I feel like he is teaching you how to watch his stuff in whatever he makes before that. I'm sure Oculus and all that, it primed people into, but this was my first time seeing one of his projects. And I was saying, after I was done watching it, which I binged in one day, seriously, I could not stop watching it. And I thought to myself, whatever he does next, I gotta watch it. And I did look back at the stuff that he had done beforehand. I watched Gerald's Game. And again, I'm toying with watching some of the other like straight horror stuff that he did. But I'm
Hush
not.
Is really good. It's more
Hush,
of a thriller.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that probably. But I'm not into that hack and
She's the star of
slash.
that movie.
I'm not into that other like Five Nights at Freddy's and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I trust in him at least. So I will probably go back and watch those other things. But anyway, what I'm really trying to say is, even though you had seen those other Flanagan projects, Bly Manor and Midnight Mass, I feel like he still surprises.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you watch. Even though you're ready for all the subtle clues and all the things, he still scares the shit out of you. And The first time I watched that jump scare, man, that got me hard. I
Okay.
am not a fan of jump scares, but that one was so effective, and I think it does make sense in the context of they needed something concrete in order to actually come out and say, okay, there's something going on here that I believe in now.
Yeah, it was used
Yeah.
to take away their denial.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I think that the reason that it happened between the two girls is because they didn't need as far to go, but they still did need that last little turn of the screw, as it were. But that's Bly Manor.
Ooh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, thank you. But I think that the reason they're easing Stephen into it is because he is resisting more fully. And he is becoming more and more convinced. And I think that subtlety helps us recognize the shock of the girl's experience. The subtlety between the father and son helps us see how shocking the other instance is. And I love that so much. The storytelling is just so great. He's informing us of one thing while he's showing us another thing. And then we see it's just so masterful. And I really try not to read into these things, but as I've watched this now 3 times, I think I feel like I can see that. Let me roll it back 20 seconds and see what really went on. And I am just so happy that we're getting to watch you watch it because I didn't really have that person when I first watched it to live vicariously through or whatever. My
Yeah.
husband is watching it with me. He did not watch these last 2 episodes with me because he's not feeling great, but I'm gonna make him watch it anyway. And then we're gonna watch the last two together. It's nice to see him too because he's okay. I would never watch this, but this is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's turn to you in the past and Olivia. And there's an interesting Olivia has a very interesting personality, and we'll get into it in a bit, that influences what Stephen does in the present. Let's talk all about what's going on with the couple in the past, Jesse.
Ask again.
What's going on with Olivia and you in the past?
Yeah, I like their marriage and the communication they have. I thought it was really interesting. Obviously, she is sensitive to this other world, similar to their daughter. And this house is not good for her. And I thought the handyman guy telling that story and saying, get your wife out of here. She needs a break. I thought was really well done. I can only imagine the financial pressure they're under that and often the remodeling house going to Hades has been really good movies. Cary Grant did one, Mr. Blanding builds his
I
dream
love that movie.
house. Was it Tom Hanks
Tom
and Shelley
Hanks.
Long had the house that just couldn't go? And so I thought it's interesting that now there's water and like they're out of money and they're like, we're just going to lose our shirt. She keeps doing the designs wrong and he finds that. I think they're a really strong couple. And I was rooting for them even though I know that she's gone. And I loved seeing her vision of him. And I think I've told you the story about my mom a couple weeks before she died saw my dead brother, right?
Yeah.
Yet she came and visited him. She said he visited her at the nursing home. And we said it doesn't matter whether it was just in her mind or he really did. To her it was real. And so to him, she is real. Is she a real ghost? Is she a figment? And he even says, I see her. I talk to her. I know she's not really there, but I'm sharing. So I guess I really am I think this was a really strong partnership, a strong with its flaws, but and hearing the adult Timothy Hutton talk about we fought with love was something that I think good couples learn how to do. I think when you start out, you fight to win And then you later become, we're fighting to resolve the issue.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite stories is early in the Friday Night Light series. The showrunner pulled Connie Britton and Kyle Chandler and said, "You two are in love and you will never break up. We will never go with the storyline that Tammy and Coach Taylor are going to break up. So when you guys fight, you can be as hard as you want to be because you two should know that these characters are in it for life." And I thought that was interesting. And so I felt this, I liked their relationship and felt the sadness of him going, we had 15 years together and 5 years before that, and how he's still mourning her.
Yep.
Did I kind of answer your question, Lou?
You're muted.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought you were going to get into a little more specifics about what was going on with Olivia in the past and her sensitivity to the house, or how the house was preying on her sensitivity, and what you discovered in the wall.
Oh, the dead person? Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with there. I am confused as crap. They have a lot to fill out. And you know what's I feel foolish is that when I was a couple of episodes ago, oh, this isn't over because they've wrapped everything up. And then I realized, no, they haven't wrapped up a freaking thing.
Nope.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with that.
And what about Mr. Dudley giving some background on the house and Olivia holding the screwdriver to Hugh's neck?
Yeah, what the hell? So I just truly don't. Is she being possessed? When it's easy for me to go there because we just had someone,
No.
Bly Manor had possession. Yeah, I have.
By Luke.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I have no idea what's going on with that.
All righty. Karen, anything you want to talk about what happened in the past?
Yeah. I love the conversation that Hugh and Mr. Dudley have, and the fact that they repeat, "It's not your place." And Dudley says, "Yeah, it's not my place, but I want to tell you a story about my tragic backstory and the
Yeah.
things that have happened to me here." And he puts it in those terms, and Hugh, I think part of him is whatever. I still don't believe it, but it won't hurt to send her away for a couple of days. Maybe it'll. And I do think that even at this point, if Hugh in the present day could look back and tell Hugh in the past, send her away now, he definitely would. He would actually probably just get them out of that house. He would never have bought the house if he could tell them. But I do think that it has led to some good things happening in their lives. Would Stephen have been a best-selling author if this hadn't happened to them? Probably not. Would Theo have a promising career as a child psychologist? No, most likely not. I feel like they're almost telling us everything happens for a reason, but in this case, there's some bad shit that went down. And again, I feel like it's another message you can read into this. And I love the nods here that he gives to his favorite authors, one of which being definitely Edgar Allan Poe, with the person being bricked behind a wall. And he turns it on his head with the fact that he did it himself. He bricked himself in the wall. And I just think hearing the scratches, that's a very Poe type conceit. And him seeing him in the picture and hearing the scratches and no one believing him, that is such a Edgar Allan Poe thing to do. And I love how he takes something like that. I love this book. Let me take it and put my own spin on it. And it is still incredibly original the way he does it. And you could tell, and again, I'm not going to go into little things because I'm afraid I'm going to spoil something. That's why I'm not going into the little things. But I love that you can see how much he adores this kind of thriller slash horror thing. He, every single frame of these shows are him saying, I love this genre and I want you to love it too. At least that's what I feel like. And in this case, in these episodes where he's having someone explain a sinister thing and it being a little foreshadowing, maybe telling us a little bit, like giving us a little bit and then pulling back, showing like this horrible thing that happened with the guy dying in the walls, that the house is actually falling into ruin, but it's still standing, which is a horror trope as well, intimating that the house is alive and that there's a malevolent kind of feeling there. One of the things that struck me is how Olivia can actually blame her actions on something physical. She's having these horrible headaches. And so they have a way to brush these things aside. Oh, she's acting like that because she's having these horrible headaches. They're giving her nightmares. Let's get her away for a little bit to maybe get some of the stress off. And
Yeah.
really, that's not the case at all. And it's that talking on two level things. So I love this first episode. One of the things that really gets me about that first episode is when Hugh cuts his hand.
Yeah.
And I hurt watching that because the way they don't show blood and gore, really. You see this angry slash on his hand, and they show it once, and then you don't forget that it's there. He's not going to the hospital to get it stitched up. He's just wrapping a thing around it and dealing.
Yeah.
Because he has learned to just suck it up and fix things. And that's another allegory to him trying to get things done, trying to do everything on his own. And again, that shows when we see Hugh in the future as well, where he has put this off long enough. Now he has to try and fix all this stuff. And it's that kind of symmetry between the two. I got to fix my family. I put it off for so long. And the one thing that bothered me about that is that he goes to throw the dirt in Nell's grave, and there's not a big scar on his hand. And that kind of bothered me. But because I would have liked to see that continuity.
Sure. Yep.
There would be a scar there. I'm sorry. There would be.
Good catch.
Yeah, but so that's my thought. When I first watched it, the scene with the screwdriver against his neck, I was like, okay, they're going there. This is something really evil happening, because we hadn't really seen that, malevolence in the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that scene was great too.
Yeah, which is also a great way to show how much the house is influencing Olivia too. So to any of the constant listeners out there, one of my favorite literary devices is when you reuse a story point to take the viewer or the reader down a certain pathway that they are expecting one thing, but it's really going to be something that's going to subvert your expectations when something different happens. And I think the best example of that is, for me, is in the Shawshank Redemption with Brooks. When he hangs himself, it's reused in two instances. The first one is when we found out Andy's asked for a piece of rope 6 feet long. So that's been set up in our minds, the seeds there, because of what happened to Brooks. And then the second time is when Red is boarded at the very same room that Brooks is in. And so I just love that. And here we've been establishing with Luke's character all along that the only time he shows up with family is when he wants or needs something. So either steal something or whatever. In the episode 7, we have, after the funeral, Olivia's ghost. She's pretty active. She attacks Luke, Hugh, and Theo. And then after that attack, Luke takes off and he steals Shirley's wallet and Theo's car, which is why the two girls end up together in the next episode. And Jesse, what was your initial thought when you found that out?
So the back of my mind was, I don't think this show is going to have him backslide. I don't think that's an
Good.
interesting, dramatic choice.
Awesome.
Very
It's
good.
not that I don't trust, it's not that I don't think the character is weak. It's just I'm thinking that, and maybe I remember Lawrence Block, great mystery writer. Scudder, one of his best characters, is an alcoholic. And his sponsor and him are at dinner, and they talked about that they were so upset with NYPD Blue that the Andy Sipowicz character started drinking again after his son died. And they said the reality is that he just says, I don't think it's how you honor your slain relative by backsliding. And so I'm thinking Luke's not going to backslide, at least right now, because he talked about at the funeral, bring my brother back. So I'm like, no way. And I said, maybe it will, but I just don't think so. And then when we start seeing, of course, I'm not going to let this house take another one of us. And of course, the siblings, he's backslid, right?
Yep.
This is just another example of him stealing from us.
Yep.
And now, and Steven says he's probably already got a needle in his arm. I did think about that. The tomato juice and beer or a shot of heroin gets rid of the hangover pretty
Hands
efficiently.
down.
Yeah.
Very cool. Karen, you want to add anything to that, or?
Yeah, you guys know I hate that they think so little of him, especially that he's proven that he can stay sober for a bit, because he's just come off of a pretty traumatic experience with having been beaten up and stolen from and all this stuff, and he managed not to backslide. I really can't stand that. And it's not a storytelling issue. I think the storytelling is great, but I don't like how they treat him. And I don't love that he does this and it makes it look like he is stealing from them. And I understand it needed to be done in order for them all to make way of it. It's definitely a plot device, but I feel like this is the one thing in this show that bothered me, is that they just continued to have their doubts in him. And I feel like they did that with Nell too. And that was part of Nell's continuing issues, was how she was treated. And it seems that like each generation, not generation, but each pair or whatever, each age group, they got less and less respect from the other kids. And even Theo is looked down on by Shirley and Steven.
Yep.
Yeah. And she's treated pretty poorly in that episode as well, where Shirley thinks the worst of her and all that. But yeah, I do think that I get his motivation. He's lost his other half. And he also lost his mother, who he really loved. And I think he feels like this house is cursed. Really, I honestly think that's what he's thinking. It's cursed. I got to take it out. And that cliffhanger in the second episode of these two witness marks, where he sets it on fire and it goes out, I think is an incredibly powerful moment.
Yes.
It's one of those things that I shouldn't have ever watched Mythbusters. They did an episode on whether you can throw a lighter into gas and it lights on fire, and it doesn't. It hardly will ever light anything on fire like that, because number one, it'll probably go out as you're throwing it because you're not holding. And if it does land there, there's too much gasoline for one little flame and it'll just put it out.
Yeah.
That always gets me. But I understand how else are they going to show this. You can't throw a match into gasoline either. But again, that's me being pedantic.
Sure.
So I highly recommend that no one watch Mythbusters. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. So yeah, I thought that moment was really powerful that Luke, everybody in that episode is getting some kind of a revelation, some kind of a twist in their thinking. Even Hugh, who is being coached by Olivia, don't. She's talking to him from the back seat, and he hasn't had interactions with them enough to have this kind of input from Olivia. So he's getting that kind of, you I'm going to talk to my kids how I want to talk to them. I feel is what he's, look, I'm going to pursue this line. And Shirley isn't buying it. Shirley and Theo in the car, they get that very harsh realization. Stephen is being told by his father about some of the things that he shouldn't have written off as not paranormal. And then Luke, at that moment, realizing this house, I shouldn't have come here. I really do think that is his moment where he says, okay, so this house doesn't want us around, and I just put myself right in its path.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those moments where there's a mirroring of each storyline, and they're all on pace with each other, but it doesn't feel like he's running them concurrently on purpose. It feels very organic to me. And I did mention up top that I love the pacing of this series, and we have two more to go. And I felt like when I watched it the first time, how on earth are they going to wrap all this up in two more episodes? And spoiler alert, they do. I mean, that's something I'm sure, Jesse.
Right. Yeah, because it's one of those things like if it didn't stick the landing,
we wouldn't have ever.
Sometimes maybe like it's up to this, but it has a bad ending.
Yeah,
usually
like me
when
and
you guys,
Devs.
yeah, you usually want to, yeah.
Yeah, he really does pack a lot into the last two episodes, but the pacing is so good that you never really feel like it's rushing, but you're getting a lot. And again, brilliant storytelling.
I'm going to put a note down to talk about the ending when we get to it, because there are differing opinions about the ending. So we'll get to that. But I think, as anybody knows, endings are hard. Endings are hard for books. Endings are hard for TV series. Endings are hard for anything where you've built up an audience that has a long time investment in the story and the characters, and they expect certain things to happen. And the writer's job or creator's job is not to give them, the watchers, what they expected, but to give them what they needed. We'll see how that plays out for you, Jesse, when we get to that point. So I think we've covered off most of episode 7, except for one thing, which is a big item in the next episode, is that red room. What about that red room? It was always been locked, but interesting enough, on the night when Olivia dies, that room is unlocked. And we find out from you in the next episode, when he's talking to the adult Stephen, some interesting things about the red room. Jesse, why don't we open the door in the red room and talk about that?
So I wonder if the red room is magic in that you forget about it. Because wouldn't you have just taken the hinges off the door and removed the door? They're instead obsessed with a key. In my mind, there's this mental block the house is giving, so you don't think about it. When you're in front of it, we need to get a key for that. And then when it doesn't work, you move off and then you forget about it, right? Because you would sit there and take or unscrew the mechanism, the lock, right? So I thought that was interesting. I have no idea. They're saying that it's empty, right? There was nothing in the room, but that seems to be maybe a fib when he's talking to the police officer. It is red drum. So red has this, I'm sure that's a little bit of a wink.
Yeah, I think so.
With the red door. Yeah. I don't know what it is. And once again, I thought There's so much else going on. I had forgotten about that. That wasn't a mystery that was on the top of my what is. And now when you think about it, you go, yeah, why haven't they have been able to get in that room? What's the story behind it? And my theory right now is the house doesn't want you to get there, so therefore you're distracted.
Okay, I want to continue a point on that,
Yes, please.
but Karen, I'll let you talk first, but just don't go past the room discussion.
Yeah, no problem.
Any further than what Jesse has said so far.
I won't. I'm debating on
You want
something.
okay.
Okay. Please yell at me if this is wrong,
Okay.
Lou.
Okay.
You've already seen inside the red room.
Yes. And you explains to Stephen about the red room. Do you remember that, Jesse?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Which episode is that?
Witness marks episode.
The last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I was
what are we gonna do?
worried about going as far as I went.
Yeah, what are we gonna do? Because Jesse, if you don't remember that.
No, go ahead and tell me, because
he's seen it more than that, though. They show it several different ways so far, right?
Should I have known it's the red room?
No.
Okay.
But
it's not overt.
Okay.
No, but you does tell Stephen what the red room is.
No, go ahead and tell me.
Okay.
Where was the treehouse?
Where was the treehouse? Where was the
game room?
The game room. Where were all those places? Where were all those places in the house?
Oh, okay. I did not see that.
Yeah. So
because I in the back of my mind, I was wondering, well, then where is it? But okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so you might want to rewatch that.
Yeah.
Watch the episode again.
I don't think it's overt, though. I really don't.
Okay.
And I was sitting here during that whole conversation going, I don't know if I should say this or not. And I'm glad that you're okay with what I said.
Yeah.
So in other words, when he's on the car driving and talking about that, I did not hear him say that was what was inside the red room.
No, he doesn't.
But that's the implication is
correct.
Okay. Interesting.
Where would the treehouse be, right?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. So, ooh, great. I'll have to rewatch that.
Okay. Jeez.
Yeah,
because now because it also goes into, okay, how about the conversation between Stephen and his father about ghosts? Does that ring a bell with you?
Yeah, where the biggest thing is that he had a vasectomy and never told his wife. And and
remember that I said that dinner conversation from the other episode?
And the idea, okay, I get when's the right time to tell it, but I'm just going to guess that if you're about to go to a fertility clinic, it's going to be an awkward it's going to be an awkward conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to tell you this, but my family has a history of mental illness. Out of college, I got a vasectomy. We can adopt, we can do whatever, but I have a bad gene in my DNA and I can't be the father of a child.
You'd think.
Yes, that seems like a better thing. And I am planning to rewatch the whole series.
Okay.
Excellent.
Just at one time, I'm going to binge it and just to catch everything. I did that with Bly Manor. So I am going to see that again and connect the dots.
I do want to reassure you, it's not something that's overt. It's really not. He doesn't say, hey, that treehouse was in the red room. But it's heavily implied, and I get where you wouldn't get that the first time through.
Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. But because
I'm glad
I think
you did.
You draw the inference in the next two episodes a lot stronger about what the red room's about.
He's definitely hinting at that there, though.
Yeah.
And there were other hints earlier. I honestly don't know if I should say anything.
Yeah. Let's wait
till
the next episode.
If it doesn't spoil what's coming up, but helps me to understand a little bit more about how to watch.
No, I think you should just experience the next two episodes and then
okay. I won't say anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other
make a note
that about the red room and the
And that
ending.
this is, we didn't discuss this, but here's what I wanted to say, and now I'm going to say it, Jesse,
Sure.
next Sunday night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And the tragic thing about Stephen is he did that vasectomy thinking that the family has this issue. And again, in the real world, we could totally understand that decision. But in the context of this story, the guy that's going around saying that ghosts don't believe is the one that's been seeing the most ghosts.
Yes.
So, and that there was it the there's not really a family gene for mental illness. If anything, there's a gene for sensitivity, psychic sensitivity or whatever. So we've seen how with Luke and Nell and Theo and Shirley, how it's impacted them. We saw with Stephen that he seemed the most adjusted, the most in control.
Yeah.
But just like back in the first episode at the end, when he saw Nell, he's been seeing ghosts all along and wasn't even knowing it because he's in that kind of mid-child adult state. So I found that reveal very tragic.
Yeah.
For him. And it just is another great layering on a character of story and character development, that this reveal that his biggest fear is that his family's got this crazy gene, and now he's finding out that's not true. So how does that affect him going forward? We'll find out in the next 2 episodes. So
can I ask you a question, Lou?
Sure.
Yes. So one of the things that I think of is that Stephen is, in the way that he conducts his life as a book writer and a kind of debunker of these things, is to help himself, help that solidify, even if it's subliminal, that nothing is paranormal.
Yep.
That he's thinking, even subliminally, I didn't see any of that stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah, he's the rational versus the irrational.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he needs, if he can't objectively measure something, then it can't exist.
And I think you could certainly make the argument that is he trying to convince himself that this is
self-denial.
Self-denial, and has made if every time I prove that there was a leak in the attic, you're hearing the horns, every time he can do this, it is saying, okay, I am not, there is no such thing as ghosts. There is no such thing as ghosts. There is no such thing as ghosts.
That's it.
He's his own unreliable narrator.
A very good way of putting it, for sure.
Yeah.
We've already talked about the jump scare.
Yes.
With Theo and Shirley. They've reconciled over the supposed indiscretion moment between Theo and Shirley's husband. And then we get to Luke is doing the right thing, perhaps, maybe not. We'll find out again in the next 2 episodes, but his intent is to prevent anybody else from getting hurt. And he tries to burn down the house, and he gets attacked by a ghost. And that ghost is, Jesse, did you pick up who the ghost was?
So it looked like his mom, right?
Yeah.
But not, and it could be his sister, right? I couldn't tell.
Okay.
Because we show it and then cut.
Okay, so I won't reveal the identity of that ghost, and this will be another note to make.
Yeah, another
No,
pin.
I mean, should I recognize them?
You've seen them.
Yeah, but
okay, tell me who, so I'll know. I don't mind the spoilers.
No,
okay,
just watch the next 2 episodes and just make another note if you don't figure out who it is. But you will definitely, I think the next 2 episodes will definitely certify the identity of that ghost for you. Let's put it that way.
Is it someone I should know?
It's like the Red Room scenario.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah.
You did get the gist that it looks like them, but isn't.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that. I think that's everything that I was wanting to talk about. Jesse, is there anything else you wanted to mention that hasn't come up?
I am really glad that our two sisters had the discussion about I'm not sleeping with your husband. This is the circumstance that was happening. I would have liked a little more kindness, but when she reaches her hand out and they walk hand in hand to the car, I get the feeling that she's forgiven it. Especially when you had the Halloween, right? Oh, it's just kids. And she's, no, it's not. And then they have the craziness. I am like, God, she is a cold-hearted person when maybe we could talk tonight. How could we? You're going to be back in the hotel.
Yep.
Damn.
Yep.
You
Shirley
know?
is definitely a Banff.
Yeah. Whoa. I'm really glad the Theo and Shirley seem to be talking. I am really glad that Hugh and Stephen are connected. So my hope is that in these next two episodes, we get as close to a happy ending as we can, that at least they're surviving family members. What I did think was sad is the adult Hugh going, if I lost one of you, I would be heartbroken. We already have.
Yep.
And he didn't say, if I lost another one.
Yep.
He said, and I was a little bit struck by that. Don't know if it means anything or not, but it was sad to do that. And the idea that maybe we can meet afterwards and I've got an early flight.
Yep.
And the whole, let's talk about your marriage. No, we don't. Just there's so much awkwardness and everything there. It's really good.
Karen.
I'm good. I'm afraid if I say anything else, it's gonna spoil something.
Okay, I'll let you go loose next time.
Yeah, that's fine. Of course, because you'll have seen the last two.
That's right.
I think I've already said too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Glad, Jesse, that you're enjoying these two episodes. And we're stumbling a little bit in this one. And this is the problems that you run into sometimes when you've seen the show before and you're watching it with somebody who hasn't. You don't want to spoil everything.
But you're dying to spoil everything.
We're dying to, but we'd also I don't want to steer you down a path that you wouldn't naturally go down on your own. I think it's worth it to wait for these next two episodes before we get into more finer details.
Yeah, and one of the things I was thinking about is how old is young Stephen?
12 or 13, something like that.
So I find it a little unrealistic that a 12 or 13-year-old could refinish a dresser by themselves.
Yeah.
And so I knew there was something going on with the dresser. And so I am curious now then, because it made sense, right? The game room, you should look at where you won't find, but why wouldn't the mom and dad go into the game room? So that is, I did not connect those 2 points. Now that you did, it's great. Yeah, I will watch them tonight.
Good.
We're doing Mother's Day stuff, and so I may be not till 8 or 9 o'clock tonight, but I will watch these guys.
Okay, awesome. And with that, we're going to call it the end of this episode. And we're looking forward to doing next week, obviously. And it'll be interesting to hear Jesse's thoughts and Karen's, as usual, about what they thought of the last two episodes. And we'll bring up some interesting points about our overall thoughts of the series as well. And with that, Jesse, I'm going to give you the floor once again to tell everybody where to find you on the internet.
You can find me at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter and X, Jesse Jackson on Facebook. I am talking a little more political on Facebook lately, so be careful about that. I'm just sometimes, not always. Hypocrisy bothers me all the time, so I am speaking about that. We are talking the new Doctor Who, Charles and I, and it has been a very strong season. And this one that just released on Saturday, the one set in Africa, was really amazing. And then Set Listing Bruce, where we talk music and power. And then we'll be back next week to talk more Haunting of Hill House. And we've got to discuss what we do next.
Yeah.
But that's it for now for me.
Right. That's a lot. Karen.
You can email us at jklmediareviews@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel is also JKL Media Reviews. Wherever you listen to this, please feel free to leave us a review or rate us. That would be lovely.
Yeah.
You can find me at Aleveria, Aleveria, on various social media platforms. Search it and you'll probably find me. And that's it. Oh, I have a blog, alliestuff.com.
Alrighty, and you can find me at Lose Reviews on YouTube, where I do podcasts for the Stephen King podcast, the Writers Podcast, and our now completed Babylon 5 journey, including animated movies there. On this channel, which is JKL Media Reviews, you'll find our JKL Media episodes, which are one-offs of limited run series, one season run series, or mini series. And we also touch on other topics, books, movies, music, and we've done a ton of stuff there. A lot of good series that you can check out. Some excellent ones on music we've done as well. And with that, you can also find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lou W. Sitzma. And I think that's everything. And if it's
Also,
not...
our series on 12 Monkeys, I find
yes.
that's a highlight as well.
Yes, 12 Monkeys was one of the big ones that we did for JKL Media, but we've done Devs, Hunting a Blind Manor. We did was it Western Star, Jesse?
Yeah.
Western Stars,
Western Star. The
Yeah.
English, which was a Netflix series with Emily Blunt.
Amazon.
Was it Amazon? Oh,
yeah, it was
okay.
Amazon.
And so there's lots of great stuff out there on the JKL Media stuff for you to check out. And with that, bid you all adieu until next time, and we'll see you in a week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And see.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.